All right. Hi, everyone. I am here again with Miss Ramsey, and we are here for our session on the improve part of the impact cycle. And so I just wanted to ask you, Miss Ramsey, given the time that we have to talk today, what do you think is the most important thing for us to talk about?
Definitely the strategy that we implemented for the students' time on task.
Is there anything that's like on your mind that you kind of want to talk about before we go through these different steps?
Well, kind of, milestone testing is coming up. So we've been doing a lot as teachers to get ready for that test, and students are about to start working on some test prep. And it just takes a lot of time away from authentic learning. And, we're already pandemic teaching. So I just feel like we came up with this really awesome strategy to implement, but I don't know how much longer we can truly implement it given the milestones that are coming up.
Right. And I know that testing takes away from so much, like you said, authentic learning. Well, hopefully through this process today, we can figure out how you can still maybe squeeze, using the strategy in when you do have time. And then once milestones wrap up, we can really full force come back and use this. But we know we need to get our students ready so they feel comfortable. Um, so I just want to review with everyone. Our goal was to have students, an increasement to 80% of students on task during math workshop. So Ms. Ramsey was having some trouble with students being off task during their independent time. She saw them really engaged during the mini lesson. And then when it came to the independent times, they were off task. And so we chose a goal of implementing a digital tool for students to use while they completed their task. And that was going to increase their engagement, their focus, and we used a checklist. And so I want to kind of review with everyone the checklist, and then you can kind of share how it went when you tried.
Okay.
Okay, so let me share the checklist with everyone. So here we have the checklist, and this part of the checklist is what you are going to use when you are planning a lesson to incorporate a digital tool. And so we'll review that part a little bit later. This part of the checklist was used for student engagement for task on time. So students need to know what the digital tool is and how to use it, how much time they have using the digital tool, the outcome they need to produce with the tool because we want them to stay focused, if there's an early finisher activity that we can use with the tool, so they're not distracting other classmates. And then rules for technology and what to do if technology fails, because we want students to be focused and on task. We don't want them using other games or other tools. And we also don't want them distracting others if their digital tool does not work. So you had a chance to observe me implementing that in your classroom. And so then I want to kind of ask you, how did it go when you used the checklist and used the new strategy in your classroom?
Yeah, so it went fairly well, I thought. I about 70% of the students were on task. One or two, were not using the tool correctly, but I used the seating chart that we had discussed to kind of tally and see what they were working on. But they had their iPads and their journals, and it really did increase their ability to stay on task, and the behaviors went down, the task completion increased. And overall, I think the geometry lesson went really well because that virtual geo board really solidified a lot of those concepts for them.
I love how you said that the task was completed. That was obviously one thing. The point of the task was for it to be completed by them. So I love that the strategy has helped you with that and also like their engagement. And like you mentioned, for our data, we're kind of noticing that about 75% of the students were on task, which is close to our goal of 80. So, we're almost there. And with it being like the first and second time of you implementing this, it's going to take time for students to fully understand how to use these different tools and what it's expected for. So that's okay for, being the first time. I also love that you said you used the checklist for the seating chart because that helped you track the data and keep you, focused. So while they were working, you could quickly jot it down and do that. So that's super helpful. What did you see that made the strategy seem that it was successful? I know you said on task, but could you describe that like a little bit more?
Yeah, so I just think digital technology keeps children more engaged. They they did grow up with technology, but the parameters around which we give them to utilize the technology is something that, I have to step in and provide so that it's effective for learning. And I just think like by keeping them accountable through those initial lessons when we set up those rituals and routines and the norms through that checklist that you created, I just think that kept them really engaged because they knew what was expected of them. And they were able to use the tool to learn and to like learn through play, I guess.
I love that. And that's so important, clear expectations with them. And so that I'm glad that that worked with your students. And then, like you said, play, we want our students to have fun and we want them to be engaged in what they're doing and it not feel like it's something they just have to do, but they want to do. So I'm glad that they found that part fun. Was there anything that you learned or anything that surprised you that kind of like stood out to you?
That there were still a few kids that were off task. I just was so hopeful that everyone would be, pledging through and doing great. But yeah, there were still a few kids off task.
Right. And I think, like we said, moving forward with this, we can work maybe a little bit more one-on-one with that student or two who is kind of, still having trouble. Maybe they need to be sat down and spoken to, reviewing the rules independently, or maybe they can have some sort of focus, that we can work with them on to, make sure we get that increasement. Roadblocks. I know we've kind of talked about timing and things that are going on with the school schedule right now. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, just switching gears right now to get ready for the milestones. It's just a lot to try to continue something so good, but I think it's important that we keep some sort of a routine for them. It's just trying to figure out that balance. Where can we still have fun and engage them through digital tools, but get ready for the milestones?
I agree with that completely. So I guess what we can say with when the milestones are wrapping up and we're back to our regular schedule. I know we talked about kind of modifying and tweaking. Is this a strategy that you want to keep using? Is it something that you liked and that it's helpful in your classroom?
Yeah, 100%. I want to keep using it for sure.
Okay, so we can keep using this strategy. I think we could add to the checklist something that could help those few students who are still off task. Is there anything that you think that we could add to that checklist that could maybe be one more thing that we would hit to make sure we could keep these students focused, the ones that are having just a little bit of extra challenge with it?
Yeah, I think we could definitely add like an accountability piece. So like if you complete 5 of the shapes on the geo board, for example, I know we use a different tool, but if you complete 5 out of this, then you get to share something with the class that you completed. I know my kids love to share, so that's always a good incentive.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, they would be super excited and that would motivate them, to get it done so they could have that chance in the spotlight. Okay, so that will be something, I'll make a note of that we can add to the checklist, is that accountability, like sharing piece. And I think they would love that. So we are going to keep our same goal, modify the strategy just a tiny bit by adding to the checklist. And then our strategy was using a digital tool, and for this specific lesson it was virtual geoboards, but I want to kind of throw around some other ideas that we could use, and then you can use the second part or the first part of that checklist that I showed you. So I'll pull that up one more time. So the first part of the checklist that we talked about last was when you are going to use this for planning. And so some other really great tools, Flipgrid is an awesome tool that students will love to use. And like you said, your students love to share and talk. And so Flipgrid will be one where they can get to share and take that spotlight on their own. And so when you're implementing other tools into your lesson plans, these are the spots you can hit. Is the tool going to support the student learning as well as standards-based? Is the tool going to be easy to use in the time allotted? Is it going to be compatible with district devices and networks, something that we try while we're at the school? Is it safe and kid-friendly, and that it won't distract learners in other small groups or on another task? And so this will be so helpful for you to use once the milestones are over, once you have more time and you want to try other strategies. This is the checklist section to come back to and use for your part of implementing it. Okay, so our school year is coming to an end, but I want you to keep working on this as much as you can. And so when can we meet again to kind of discuss how all this is going?
I was looking at my calendar, maybe right before or right after, I mean, the milestones are over and right before the end of the school year, we can
Okay,
kind of collaborate, see what we could do maybe for next year too.
perfect. Okay, so we'll look at those specific dates. What are some tasks that need to be done before that so we can make sure that we have things to talk about and review?
So I think I'm just going to keep working with the digital tools as long as I can. And I am going to use your checklist to try to find some other tools that my kids might find engaging and then maybe talk to you about which ones I think would work best.
Yes, that would be perfect.
Okay.
Um, and if I find anything or I'm collaborating with other teachers and I know some that will work well with you, I'll definitely send them your way and we can get together and, figure out how to best use them in your class. I've loved working with you. I'm just like super excited about the progress that your students have made, that you've made. You've been super willing to try new stuff, and that's awesome. So on a scale of 1 to 5, like how committed are you to, continuing to use this goal in your classroom?
Oh, a 5 for sure.
All right. Well, I look forward to meeting with you again. I'm always here for you if you have questions, and like I said, I'll send things your way if I find them.
Okay, thanks so much. Perfect.
Thank you so much.